The film adaptation is now widely considered a cult classic, a movie so hip, most people don't even read the book. But they should, because it's not just about the sickness of conformity and the unimportance of trends, it's a personal statement about the author himself. I had to. I mean, when am I going to get another chance, guys? Come on. Better than food, man. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Better Than Food Book Reviews. Great to see you as usual. Really quick, if you'd like to support the show by buying one of these mugs, you can head to the description box below to find out more about that. You can also get entered into the book and coffee lottery down there, and you can fast forward to the end of the review where we can see who won today. That's for donating $5 or more per video. For $1 or more per video, you can get access to the exclusive patron-only reviews that I do. So check that out. Most of you have already read or heard of this novel, but for those of you that haven't, American Psycho is a novel from the early 90s that sparked outrage, got dropped by its original publisher, and then got picked up by another one. It's a first-person character study of a 27-year-old Wall Street investment banker who happens to be a serial killer. The book is composed of his neurotic thoughts displayed in excruciating detail. His name is Patrick Bateman, and in a 2016 Town & Country article, the author, Bret Easton Ellis, describes him as such. Perhaps he's a ghost, an idea, a summing up of the values of that particular decade filtered through my 80s literary sensibility, moneyed, beautifully attired, impossibly groomed and handsome, morally bankrupt, totally isolated and filled with rage, a gorgeously dressed and empty thing, a young man and directionless mannequin hoping that someone, anyone, will save him from himself. Nice summary there. Bret Easton Ellis is an American author based in Los Angeles who broke out around the age of 20 or 21 with Less Than Zero, which I've reviewed on this channel. Heavily inspired by Hemingway and Stephen King, his writing style is this strange, forever modern, iconic, cold, neutral, detached horror minimalism. Similar to William Gibson, but far more cynical, very critical, cruel, basically. Though of course that's mostly from the content and the characters. Every character just seems high as fuck on prescription pills, and they sometimes are. No matter how outrageous or violent or shocking the events in his stories, it's like their pulse never raises, they're never phased, no matter what happens. And this is especially true in American Psycho. The film adaptation is a black comedy cult classic with an indisputably perfect performance by Christian Bale. You, like me, have probably seen it multiple times and may even occasionally go back to YouTube to check out the scene where he does the goofy little dance to Huey Lewis right before driving the axe in the face of Jared Leto. Two more iconic scenes from the film and the book haunt the minds of everyone when I say American Psycho. The business card scene wherein Bateman has something like a panic attack, with a rambling internal monologue outlining the superior perfection of his competition's business card, and the scene where he describes his morning routine and his post-workout strategy to remain youthful, listing in great detail all of the products and moisturizers he uses in order to not age. In this way, he's really similar to Yukio Mishima's characters, especially in Confessions of a Mask, because Mishima was obsessed with youth and beauty, believing that there was nothing more devastatingly disgusting or wretched than old age. Though in Mishima's case, this probably stems from growing up with a ridiculously eccentric grandmother. In spite of all the exaggeration, in American Psycho, Ellis is portraying a very real place in a young man's life. Partially his own life after the early success of Less Than Zero and moving to New York, wondering what to do and who to be. The extreme dialogue that takes place when we're feeling bitter or biting or cynical. Critical, emotionally drained, hollowed out by excess, by desire, by expectation, and jaded with vampiric acquaintances or lovers or substances. When discussing the enduring popularity of Patrick Bateman with Rolling Stone years after the book's publication, Ellis said, "I created this guy who becomes this emblem for yuppie despair in the Reagan 80s, a very specific time and place. And yet he's really infused with my own pain and what I was going through as a guy in his 20s, trying to fit into a society that he doesn't necessarily want to fit into, but doesn't really know what the other options are. That was Patrick Bateman to me. It was trying to become a kind of ideal man because that seemed to be the only kind of guy that was accepted. Bateman keeps saying, 'I want to fit in.' I felt that way too. I want to fit in." In earlier interviews, it seemed that Ellis dismissed the idea that Bateman's thoughts were something akin to his own, at the time, and that Bateman was inspired by his father and the Wall Street men Ellis was hanging out with. But he later admitted that wasn't true. Sure, you could say Ellis is Bateman, but it's more like one very negative component of a personality magnified and pushed into the extreme, a component that we all share, by the way, which is why the book resonates. Bateman is sort of this nihilistic vacuum, taking in all the designer labels with his eyes, calculating every single one on every single person, male or female, listing them in excruciating detail, sucking in coke, money, J&B's on the rocks, sorbet, music, Huey Lewis, and then lives, the lives of people, small animals, women, and children. On the outside, on the surface, key word in the writing of Ellis, he embodies what so many young men want to be then and now. But on the inside, he's this wretched, voracious monster that feasts in a desperate excess without any semblance of pleasure. It's this numbed inability to feel anything significant, running theme through the work of Ellis. This total glacialized personality that lives to seek but can never find anything, can never hold on to something. And what separates American Psycho from being an exercise in the combination of violence and body parts, and spectacular displays of gore and nihilism in the most creative manner achievable, something like an updated 120 Days of Sodom with the addition of luxury brands, though pieces of the book very much resemble that, are the passages where Bateman is something close to human. Many of these are short. For example, the list of designer shoes and ties and jackets seems to far outweigh in sheer words the moments of disturbing and poignant reflection on the part of Bateman. But because of this, because of the interruption in the vacuous lists, they're chilling. There wasn't a clear, identifiable emotion within me, except for greed and possibly total disgust. I had all the characteristics of a human being: flesh, blood, skin, hair. But my depersonalization was so intense, had gone so deep, that the normal ability to feel compassion had been eradicated, the victim of a slow, purposeful erasure. I was simply imitating reality, a rough resemblance of a human being, with only a dim corner of my mind functioning. Something horrible was happening, and yet I couldn't figure out why. I couldn't put my finger on it. The only thing that calmed me was the satisfying sound of ice being dropped into a glass of J&B. It's like the cynicism of the character from Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground, and the deep longing to fit in that you could find in something like, again, Confessions of a Mask by Yukio Mishima, and the sexual violence of the Marquis de Sade's 120 Days of Sodom, because there's a lot of lists in that, same with this one, but with the main character modeled after Gordon Gekko from the movie Wall Street. It's a really black satire, so it's comedic in part. The word zany would not be inappropriate to describe the scene where he's popping halcyon, going on a shopping spree in Bloomingdale's. I'll be honest, it took me a long time to finish. At many points, the description of designer garments had me praying for violence on the next page, as a purely meditational catharsis, for being forced to read the names Zegna and Alan Edmund yet again. And then you instantly understand how Ellis could write something like this, after hanging around men having conversations about shit like that. It's part of the whole literary mechanism. The painful, repetitious obsession solidifies Bateman's reality. But we never find out if it is indeed real. If he did murder another Wall Street guy, or his ex-girlfriend, or a ton of women. Again, frequently disembodied in graphic, creative detail. It's a critique of male narcissism at the time, though in a hideous twist of irony, it's inspired a whole new chapter of millennial self-indulgence. There's definitely a cult of Patrick Bateman. He has become a cultural icon for masculine narcissism. Some fitness figures on YouTube even model themselves after him. There is undoubtedly a group of men dedicated to emulating Bateman's attention to detail, his prissy, over-concerned, status-conscious compulsions. In fact, it's become the norm in many circles. You can check out an article in the description box below, Why Modern Men Can Identify with Patrick Bateman. You're like, wow, maybe it was an unintentionally accurate prophecy of young, postmodern, post-Empire in Ellis terms, men who are so lonely and empty inside that they've created a religion out of self-worshipping excess, consumerism, luxury goods, occasionally looking for something greater, looking up, but only finding this dead, hollow space. Filling Bateman's hollow space in the novel is stuff, entertainment, products. There are these bizarre music reviews that just go on and on. Again, Huey Lewis in the News is the famous one. Patrick constantly rents these videotapes, and the term, I have to go return some videotapes, is now a meme, right? It's a euphemism for murder. Bateman admires Donald Trump and the art of the deal. Different Trump in a different era, though. And Ellis says in an article that today, Bateman would not be a Trump supporter. He would be embarrassed by him. Bateman hates the working class. I found this interesting. David Foster Wallace attacked the novel in an interview, saying, if readers simply believe the world is stupid and shallow and mean, then Ellis can write a mean, shallow, stupid novel that becomes a mordant, deadpan commentary on the badness of everything. Look, man, we'd probably, most of us, agree that these are dark times and stupid ones, but do we need fiction that does nothing but dramatize how dark and stupid everything is? Oddly enough, the repetitious mental listing of high-status designer label fashion accessories, luxury products, alcoholic beverages, and restaurant/food descriptions feels just like reading Wallace's infinite jest footnotes. And nothing against Wallace, it's a fair criticism. But I think American Psycho is a unique confession, but not confrontation, of emptiness. A portrayal of inner post-rock bottom, but even worse, an acceptance of it, and in some moments a disturbing celebration. Like Lucifer in Paradise Lost, in his new kingdom of hell. Hail whores, hail infernal world, and thou profoundest hell, right? Bateman's an archetype, and that's why above all, before any label you put on it, I would view this book as a warning. Be careful what you admire, and be careful where you place your devotion. Very much like Paradise Lost in that sense, and I think Ellis would agree with that description. Strip the comedy and style away and you have a painful moment of lucidity that is worth meditating on. God, or the idea of, is rarely mentioned in American Psycho. I don't think this is a coincidence, and it seems like a smart, deliberate move on Ellis's part. When we start the book, Bateman is already far beyond redemption. In fact, that's one of his defining characteristics. But we see the existential consequences. It's as if a man is being torn apart on the inside by God, yet does his best to defy him in order to convince himself of his own power, of his own existence, anything. A feel-good novel? Absolutely not. Except occasionally when it's hysterically funny. But for certain moments in your life, when exploring your shadow, it might be better than food. Now, who's gonna get it? Along with coffee. Timothy. Timothy A. Good deal. Thanks a bunch, Timothy. You win American Psycho and a bag of coffee roasted by yours truly. Thank you so much to everyone who has supported the show. If you'd like to get in on the coffee and book lottery, you can head over to patreon.com/books are better than food and donate $5 or more per video. $1 or more will get you access to the patron exclusive reviews. Check it out. Good stuff coming your way on there. And please subscribe if you have not already. Would you please subscribe? Take 2 seconds of your time. Also, a like on Facebook would be really appreciated. Thank you so much. Mugs, these fantastic mugs, you can check them out in the description box below. I'm getting great feedback on those. Everybody's loving them. I've been sending them to everyone, including my grandmother, and she loves it very much. So, I think that's all I got. Always remember, life is far too short to read bullshit. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a good night. Ciao.